News Europe. Pleasure to have you on, Ben. I just want to start with the fact that the Russian army said it didn't target Polish sites, but I mean, Russia always takes this line of, you know, we didn't do this intentionally, and kind of, is that done deliberately, do you think, to kind of distract the conversation? Instead of talking about what happened, you're talking about whether it was deliberate or not?
Of course it is. I mean, Russia's always like, it wasn't us. You started it when they started it. So, of course, it's plausible deniability. And your correspondent made a great point. 19 drones, missiles, don't go off course accidentally on their own at the same time. I mean, there's been a previous incident in November 2022 when 2 missiles did go off course and came down in Poland and killed one person, if I remember correctly. But in that case, I think everybody came to the conclusion relatively quickly that it was a malfunction in the missiles and that they genuinely came down in Poland and weren't supposed to. I think what's going on here, and this is pure speculation, is that the Russians are testing or making a point, a warning to NATO that they're sending some drones over Polish territory, and it was not an attack on Poland, but the idea was to violate the airspace with drones to make the point that, you know, you're taking a step closer to conflict, direct conflict between NATO and Russia. Because the war has changed. I mean, in 2022, when it started, it was javelins and tanks. In 2023, it became a drone war. But what's really changed in the last few months is that it's become a missile war. Russia has tripled the number of drones and missiles, and it has its own drone production has doubled. And at the same time, Kiev has introduced these new missiles. And what the big change is that Ukraine is now taking the fight into Russia. It's using these new long-range drones and missiles to hit targets inside Russia. And Russia's not happy about that. And the NATO allies have always prevented Ukraine from doing that, fearing a direct conflict. And now that Ukraine is using its tech in order to hit targets, oil refineries in particular, inside Russia, and doing some real damage, that it's an escalation. Zelensky himself said that this is an escalation. And I think this is a sign, a warning to NATO that if we continue to be attacked on our home territory, then we're getting one step closer to a direct fight between NATO and Russia. Because until now, it's always been, you know, NATO's been helping Ukraine defend and arm itself. But the argument is that now Ukraine can use NATO weapons to actually hit Mother Russia itself. We're a short step before the Kremlin turns around and says, NATO is attacking Russia directly. It's in the war directly, and we will retaliate.
My thought
and
there,
I think that's
Ben, is that, I mean, it's a threat, isn't it, from Russia? You're doing to us what we've been doing to Ukraine. Russia doesn't like it, but is it a bluff? Or do you think Russia would be willing to actually take on a military confrontation with NATO? It seems like it's trying to deter it through threats.
Indeed, I think exactly that. I mean, they're calling NATO's bluff because NATO is even less keen than Russia to get into that fight. I think everyone realizes, and, you know, Lavrov, the foreign ministry, says we'll never start a war with NATO. We're not crazy, because it would lose in the long run, simply because the tech and the industrial power of the West would overcome Russia. But in the short term, the amount of damage that would be done to Western Europe in particular, I mean, Russia has missiles in Kaliningrad that can reach every single European capital in 20 minutes, would be colossal, this damage. And of course, Europe's been through that colossal damage, and so that it doesn't want to do it. And I think the Kremlin is calling the West bluff, saying that we could do this. And I think one thing we've learned about Putin in this war is that at every stage he's surprised by going to extremes. I don't think it's inconceivable that he would drop bombs on Paris, London, here in Berlin, whereas the European powers will simply not contemplate that. It's unconscionable that you could try and mobilize French and Italians to go and fight and die in the cornfields of the Donbass for the sake of a fight against Russia.
Yeah, I think you've described very well there that really awkward situation that these leaders in Europe find themselves in at the moment of what to do and what not to do. Much appreciated, though, the analysis. Ben Aris, Editor-in-Chief at Business News Europe, my guest. Thank you.
Pleasure.